Israel launches a response to Tuesday's missile attack. On Thursday, US President Joe Biden suggested that a possible Israeli strike on Iran's oil infrastructure had been discussed as Israel continues to weigh up how to strike back at Tehran. Meanwhile, Israel has continued to strike southern Beirut and Lebanon, telling more than 30 villages in the south to immediately evacuate and head north. A major road out of Lebanon was hit. Visuals show a large crater near the border crossing into Syria, where thousands of people have been fleeing. Rockets continue to be fired into Israel from Lebanon as well. Sirens sounded in southern Israel for the first time in 2 months, according to the Israeli military. Lebanon's health ministry says 37 people have been killed in Israeli ground and air attacks in the past 24 hours. More than 2,000 people have now been killed in the country since last October. Significantly, US media has cited Israeli officials as saying that the cousin of former Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, Hashem Safieddine, is thought to have been a target during last night's strikes. Safieddine is widely considered to be a possible successor to Nasrallah. Hezbollah has not yet commented. Hashem Safieddine is considered to be a potential successor of the late Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. He heads the Executive Council and is said to be a part of the Jihad Council, which is in charge of leading and organizing military and security activities. Safieddine, a relative of Nasrallah, is Nasrallah. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is in Beirut, landing only a few hours after a series of massive airstrikes on the southern suburbs of the city. This is the first official and announced visit by a high-ranking Iranian official since Israel targeted and killed Hezbollah leader Nasrallah.
Maybe these bullets took my legs and this one took my arm here.
This door, pierced with bullet holes and stained with blood, brings back horrific memories for Avida Bahar. It was here that his 15-year-old son, Carmel, was killed during Hamas's October 7th attack on southern Israel.
And I'm holding the handle really close to the wall. And Carmel, he holding with me from the other side of him, like that. And these tears, it's Carmel blood. He holding like that, and this bullet hit his arm, both arms.
Bahar also lost his wife Dinar and his leg in the attack that saw militants storm through their home at Kibbutz Be'eri. The group set fire to houses and killed or abducted men, women and children. Bahar's family took shelter in the safe room when Hamas began firing from the Palestinian enclave of Gaza into Israel that morning. But kibbutz safe rooms were built to protect people against rockets, not a ground assault. It couldn't withstand the attack by heavily armed militants who shot through the steel door, threw grenades through the window and set Bahar's home ablaze. Beirut was established in 1946 with the aim of creating a collective, egalitarian farming community. The tight-knit kibbutz, located just 3 miles from Gaza, lost about a tenth of its roughly 1,000 residents in Hamas's attack. Israeli tallies say the Hamas-led militants killed a total of 1,200 people and took around 250 hostages in their October 7th rampage. Health officials in Gaza say that Israel's subsequent military offensive has killed more than 41,000 Palestinians and displaced most of the population. Anger still smoulders among some Be'eri residents at the Israeli army for failing to protect their kibbutz. And many feel the government is not doing enough to bring back the 101 hostages still held in Gaza. Of the 10 hostages taken from Be'eri, at least 3 are thought to still be alive. In the aftermath of October 7th, most of the kibbutz's surviving residents were evacuated to a hotel by the Dead Sea. A few have now returned, but maintaining a sense of togetherness while uprooted has been a challenge, says Iftar Selnica, Be'eri's community director.
It will take time not only to build Be'eri, it will take time to build the confidence this is a place, this is a safe haven.
I'm stating that the enemy of the Iranian nation is the enemy of the Palestinian nation, the same enemy of the Lebanese nation. The same government is the enemy of the Iraqi nation, the enemy of the Egyptian nation, the enemy of the Syrian nation, the enemy of the Yemeni nation. The enemy is one. The ways of the enemy in different countries is different. The Palestinian nation has the right to stand up against the enemy that has occupied its land and home, destroyed its farm and ruined its life. The Palestinian nation has this right. Nobody based on any international laws has the right to object to the nation of Lebanon. Lebanon's Hezbollah that why have you are supporting Gaza and the uprising of Palestinian people? It's their duty. They had to do it. It is an Islamic ruling and a logical law and also an international and global logic. Palestinians are defending their land. Their defense is legitimate and helping them is also legitimate. The Al-Aqsa storm operation that took place last year around the same days as now was an international right, logical, legal and move and Palestinians had the right. The brilliant action of our armed forces in the attack on Israel 2 or 3 nights ago was a completely legal and legitimate operation. Whatever task the Islamic Republic of Iran has in this field, defending, it will do it with strength and fortitude.
Just in the past almost 48 hours, we've recorded almost 39 healthcare workers who have been killed. If you look from the beginning of the events in last October, we have gone beyond 120 casualties. We've seen almost more than 20 between hospitals, medical centers have been attacked. We've seen almost 130 vehicles that have been targeted. So unfortunately, the same playbook that we saw in Gaza, where hospital health facilities and health personnel were targeted, here as well, Israel are repeating their same playbook in Lebanon. As an example, yesterday we had people, paramedics who were targeted, and when we sent other paramedics to collect them, to take them to hospitals, the second team of paramedics was also targeted. And up till now, despite the fact that the International Committee of the Red Cross are trying to help, we haven't been able to retrieve their bodies.
Will there be American troops sent to combat to help Israel? Will there be American troops sent to combat to help Israel? Yes or no?
We've already helped Israel. We continue to. We're going to protect Israel.
Okay, time for us to take a quick break here on Global Lens. On the other side, we're going to discuss with a panel of experts just what can be expected next as tensions continue to escalate in the Middle East.
This is such a huge, vibrant, exciting country to be in. Every day brings a new adventure. I absolutely love it. India is now a major priority for us to engage with. You have to remember, Ireland, we're a very small country of 5 million people. We have a huge diaspora. We can talk about that later. Many, many Irish people around the globe. The Indian government is always very thorough with any proposal. They don't just sign up to everything. So of course there has to be benefits for both sides, but I really see huge opportunities in that.
This is The Diplomat.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
Cooking is an act of law. The first act of law we receive from our mothers in the families.
Modern Indian food is all about contemporary and innovative approach to traditional Indian cooking.
Representation it's also important, no?
I want to wear this white coat every day and then be a chef.
There are stories. If we name
a whiskey is increased, then there is a whole story behind that.
Cooking food is like a therapy, and eating one is like a pleasure I can give it to myself.
With Lounge Nights, I'm on a journey to celebrate and recognize the best food and nightlife establishments in various cities across India.
Radical presents Lounge Nights every Saturday and Sunday only on News9 Live.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and we're discussing the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Let's introduce our guest. Joining me on Global Lens tonight is Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav. He's a Defence and Strategic Affairs expert. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, former Indian diplomat, is also with us, as is Dr. Zakir Hussain, a Middle East expert. Gentlemen, welcome to Global Lens. Let me begin with Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav. So what do you make of where the conflict is currently headed, even as the world waits with bated breath to see how Israel is going to retaliate against the Tuesday attack that was mounted by Iran? Its bombardment of Lebanon is only intensifying, and in last night's airstrikes, very significantly, one of the targets was Hashem Safieddine, a man who's widely seen as being a potential successor of the late Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. We don't know what happened to him eventually. Israel has refused to comment on it. Lebanon hasn't revealed anything either. But fact of the matter is that this conflict is intensifying by the day. And then we heard what the Supreme Leader of Iran had to say today. What is your take on how things are unfolding in the Middle East? You know, there are fears that the conflict could actually spiral out of control in the days ahead.
Yeah, let me start with the little big picture. You see what has happened since last year, since 7th October. For almost 1 year, Israel was concentrating on Hamas, that is in Gaza Strip. Now, at the same time, Hezbollah, they were trying to incite Israel to open up the second front, which they did not. Now, once they have subdued Hamas to a large degree, now they switch on to the Lebanon front. So, Israel has been very smart in working out this war strategy. That is number one. Now, the Iranian retaliation in response to Hezbollah chief's killing, it was obvious, and what they have done, is the same thing what they've done in April also. You see, what they are doing is, it is beyond their capability. If we talk that Iran will join this war and they will come against Israel, one has to look at the distances involved. Iran is almost 1,500 kilometers away from Israeli borders. That is number 1 point. In case they move the regular army, the movement would be caught. The mobilization can be intervened very easily by Israel because they have supremacy in the airspace, and they have also supremacy over the precision-guided munition. And as the Prime Minister had stated officially in UN that they can reach anytime, anywhere with the precision weapons in the entire Middle East to say that. So Iran joining direct battle is not unlikely. What they're going to do is keep on firing missiles, and what they have done the last 2 nights, there are almost 200 missiles that they fired. It is more of to show the solidarity with Hezbollah and Hamas. Beyond that, they do not actually have capability for a ground offensive. And when we talk of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, these are insurgent groups. They are not regular forces which can attack Israel. They are expert in guerrilla warfare. And what Israel has done, they have provided master stroke with that pager attack and attack through their walkie-talkies. Thereby what they have done is, and the strategy is, eliminate the top leadership, which they have done of Hamas and Hezbollah. And also they have conveyed a message to Iran also, if need be, even their top leadership can be eliminated. Their military leadership, their nuclear leadership can be eliminated. And as I say, as I see this entire scenario, I do not think there's going to be escalation beyond a political rhetoric that they are trying to spread as of now. Regional war is unlikely because the capabilities are not there on ground. So in times to come, there are going to be, that means few missile attacks, intermittent missile attacks on Israel by Hezbollah, by Hamas and Iran by Houthis. This process probably will continue till the time they come to negotiating table. And in fact, the foreign minister of Iran, he is in Lebanon as of now, and as per what the statement, as per media, he is saying that the ceasefire should be simultaneous with Hamas and Hezbollah, with Israel. So that means they're keeping the doors open for a ceasefire. I think that is the more logical option that they have, and I suppose they understand it. As far as Iran using their nuclear capability, firstly, they do not have that. They have technology to manufacture the fissile material, but the delivery means and making a bomb is a different technology altogether. That will take time. They do not have it. And in case they want to escalate it by massive missile attacks once again, then Israel has got options to go and strike their nuclear establishment, the energy establishment, and their infrastructure, and also their top leadership. So the Israel has got an upper hand as of now due to their technology, and also the big military deterrence that they have because support of US and the Western world, which are technologically very, very superior vis-a-vis when we look at Iran and their proxies. Moreover, none of other Islamic countries likely join them. Firstly, there is sectarian divide between Shias and Sunnis, and other countries which are a neighbor, who are in neighborhood of Israel, none of them are likely to join this battle. So it is a matter wherein this war can continue for quite some time, and I'm sure sensible voices will come up. US is making effort, UK is making effort, France is making effort, so as to bring about a ceasefire and not to escalate this war any further.
I believe no wider regional war is on the cards, that perhaps what Iran is trying to do is to launch token attacks against Israel because it does not really have the capability to really go after Israel. And at the same time, you believe that they may not say so, but they are actually open to ceasefire negotiations. You're right. The Iranian foreign minister is said to be in Lebanon as we speak. Also, very significantly, US media reports emerged a couple of days ago suggesting that Hassan Nasrallah, the chief of Hezbollah, had agreed to a 21-day ceasefire just days before he was killed by the Israelis in an airstrike on Beirut last week. Let me now take this to Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Ambassador Sajjanhar, even as we wait to see how this cycle of attack and revenge is going to play out, what Israel might do next, because it has vowed revenge against the Tuesday missile attack that was mounted by Iran, saying it made a big mistake, it will pay a heavy price for it. But, you know, looking at today's developments, what did you make of the Iranian Supreme Leader's sermon, the fact that this was a very rare occasion when he actually led the Friday prayers. He did this for the first time since 2020. You know, he made some statements which may be controversial but don't really come as a surprise to anyone, justifying the Iranian missile attack on Israel and also the 7th October attack by Hamas on Israel, and at the same time calling on the entire Muslim world to unite against a common enemy. What message do you believe the Ayatollah was trying to send out today? Amongst other things, was he trying to tell the world, I'm not scared, because there were reports that he was in hiding following the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah?
You know, a person who says that I'm not scared really means that he is scared. And I think what he was really trying to tell his people, it was a pep talk. After all, you know, the manner in which Iran has its back to the wall, the manner in which it has been cornered, the manner in which it has been made vulnerable I think it hasn't happened over the last 45 years since it gained, since the Islamic revolution happened and the Islamic regime came there. I think the sort of over the last, not only over the last 1 year, the manner in which Israel has been going about, totally exterminating and decimating Hamas in Gaza, notwithstanding all the recriminations that have been emanating from all around the world, the United Nations, the ICJ, GCC, you name it. They have all been very, very critical. There has also been huge demonstrations on the streets. The Arab street has been very vocal and very active on this. But, Iran knows that it does not have the capacity, it does not have the capability, and that is why it has been operating through its proxies so far. But I think Israel has followed a very precise policy that first it went totally after Hamas. For all practical purposes, the top leadership has been decimated, top leadership has been totally annihilated, and so that of course has an impact on its on the capability and the capacity with which Hamas can work, its its forces can work. And now it has come after the Hezbollah, and you see it is the same playbook that is playing out in Lebanon, in South Lebanon up to Beirut, as has played out in Gaza. Now, people might keep on saying that you don't do this, you don't do that, but Israel is going along because it knows also, I think, that it has a window of opportunity till about the 5th of November, till the US presidential elections, that it can continue to do what it wants. And as far as the Democrats are concerned, they will not be able to take any action because the US public are also very much supportive of Israel. The other aspect, Neha, is, as I was mentioning also, that Iran knows that it is not in a position to compete with Israel. Not only the distances in terms of technology, in terms of capability, in terms of capacity, and that is why it has not done anything. Now you look at even its, of course, what it did in April, it had shared this information, that intelligence, with some of the regional countries and also with the United States, that it was going to launch this attack. In this case, it did not say anything. But from all available reports, there has been hardly any harm that has been done as far as Israel is concerned. In April also, Iran had said that, we've been able to meet all our objectives, we've hit the targets. There has been so much of damage and destruction in Israel. And right now also, you would have seen the images of the Majlis of the Iranian parliament. Everyone is sort of, shouting and celebrating in ecstasy, enthusiasm that, we've destroyed the 3 air bases and Mossad headquarters has been hit, etc., etc. So I think all that, even the attack was a pro forma attack. It also knew that it would not have any impact because, even countries like Jordan, not only in April, but even now, they were supporting bringing down the missiles that were coming. So, coming to what, notwithstanding what the Arab street is doing, what the countries in the region are doing, you have seen over the last 1 year, Neha, or notwithstanding any of the protests, they have not lifted a little finger to act against Israel. Many of them have, it's not the situation of the 60s and the 70s when Egypt, Iraq, Syria, all of them joined together and attacked Israel. Those days are gone. I think those days need to be forgotten. Right now, under the Abraham Accord, there are many countries who have had diplomatic relations. They've established diplomatic relations. You are aware of the I2U2, this plurilateral, quadrilateral framework that has been brought in. So Israel is being increasingly integrated into the economy and into the politics and into the strategic architecture as far as the region is concerned. This has been a huge jolt. This has pushed back that whole process of normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia to some extent.
Yes.
But still, people want to have normal relations with Israel. No one has really moved. Of course, we'll have to see how the Arab street goes forward. But I have not seen much protest demonstrations over the last few months. And what you have seen, whether it is Haniyeh or Nasrallah or the walkie-talkies or the pagers, I have not seen very many protests in any part of the world, frankly. So I think the last point here I would like to make is that maybe Israel also would not like to expand the scope of this conflict to include Iran because it has its hands full. It doesn't want to overexpose itself also. It has dealt with Hamas, it is dealing with Hezbollah, it is dealing with Houthis, and I don't think it wants to, and of course the Shias from Iraq and Syria, they keep on lobbing missiles and all that.
Okay.
I don't think it wants to open another front with Iran just yet. Maybe it will have to respond because again, it is also, what message it wants to send to its people. But it will be very precise, it will be very targeted, it will not be in the nature of hundreds of missiles as Iran has done. We'll have to wait and see how that happens.
Okay, very interesting. So both our panelists seem to think that the rest of the Arab world does not really have the appetite to get sucked into this war. Yes, efforts have been made to broker a ceasefire deal in Gaza, and the same is happening vis-a-vis the conflict between Israel and Lebanon. But chances are this conflict is not going to spiral into a full-scale regional war as is being feared in many quarters. What is Israel going to do next? What will Iran's response be? And what is the role of the United States in all of this, which actually some might argue is conspicuous by its absence? I know Dr. Zakir Hussain hasn't spoken. We need to take a quick break here on Global Lens. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation on the other side.
Cooking is an act of law. The first act of law we receive from our mothers in the families.
Modern Indian food is all about contemporary and innovative approach to traditional Indian cooking.
Representation, it's also important,
I want to wear this white coat every day and then be a chef.
There are stories. If the name of whiskey is Indri, then there is a whole story behind that.
Cooking food is like a therapy, and eating one is like a pleasure I can give it to myself.
With Lounge Nights, I'm on a journey to celebrate and recognize the best food and nightlife establishments in various cities across India.
Radical presents Lounge Nights every Saturday and Sunday only on News9 Live.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की। अभी डाउनलोड करें।
News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and we're discussing the escalating tensions in the Middle East. Dr. Zakir Hussain, let me come to you now. You've heard our other panelists. Both of them seem to be rather optimistic that however high tensions may be at the moment, the current conflict is unlikely to escalate into a full-scale regional war, as is being apprehended by many. What did you make of what the Iranian Supreme Leader said today in that very rare public sermon that he delivered after a period of 5 years? Ambassador Sajanhar called it a pep talk to the people of Iran and his, supporters outside as part of what they call the axis of resistance. But our guests also seem to believe that Iran is a weaker entity today than it has ever been in the past, and it knows that it does not have the capabilities to go after Israel in a manner that it may want to. Thus far, in any case, we know that Iran has never been involved in a direct conflict with Israel. It had only unleashed attacks on Israel through its proxies, but those very proxies that that constitute the so-called axis of resistance today are facing the biggest challenge today. So what did you make of the speech delivered by the Ayatollah?
The speech simply, he has delivered his speech in Persian as well as Arabic, and it shows that he wants to provoke, he wants to get favoritism among Muslim countries, among Arab countries, and he knows that the Arab leaders are not going to join his call. So Iran is trying to put his case before the public Muslims, and of course Muslims are moved by his speech, but the rulers are not going to respond to his call. Number one. Number second, so far I also agree with the two panelists. So far Iran has proved a paper tiger like that. It was depending upon its proxies, and the proxies first loss of their proxies was intelligence war. That broke their command and communication system, and that destroyed them, their all the things, and morally the killing of the leadership. This also destroyed their moral and psychological level. And Israel has also hit their rocket stocks. In that way also they have lost their projectile capabilities. So at many fronts, what I feel that Iran is at a back foot. But it responded because of the need that it wants Hezbollah and other allies to remain there. In future, they must again build up their capacities. While about attack on Iran is concerned, I divide it into two parts. Number one, right now in 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever time is there, Israel will attack Iran on certain basis, but there is a difference between Israel and Biden. Biden does not want that oil installation should be targeted, because Iran supplies 3% of the total oil of the world. It is going to spike the oil prices. Already $5 has gone up per barrel, and it is going. If it is happening, that it means that the world economy will be suffering. So Israel may target the IRGC's locations, military complex. It may not target perhaps the nuclear weapon. It may also target other manufacturing capabilities of Iran. And what I feel that after election there will be a full-fledged war against Iran, because leaving Iran at this juncture means it is giving oxygen to all these proxies to raise their capacities again. Israel is seeking this opportunity for the last 2-3 decades to drag Iran in war. One by one, it has destroyed its all enemies like Iraq, like Syria, killed the nuclear scientists of Egypt, and this Iran is the last bastion, and it will not leave it until Iran falls. Israel's dominance, Israel's leadership will not be accepted in the region, and America will also not get a free hand to handle China and Russia. Because what is the problem here with Iran, that Iran relied too much on its allies like proxies, then Russia, then China. Proxies were its allies, but Russia and China has not supported Iran in that way. Russia has not supplied any critical weapons to Iran which can defend its capability. So right now I feel that Iran is is at a weakest position. That's why Ayatollah has claimed has given a call to the Muslims to seek their soft power, and the war may not expand too much. Israel will attack on critical things, but it will not affect neither the world economy nor the Arab economies, which are obsessed with post-oil diversification, mainly tourism and all these things. So they have to move within a narrow passage, saving the world economy as well as saving the future of the Arab monarchies. This is my estimate.
Interesting. And you believe that the Ayatollah's appeal to the Muslim world is not going to have much of an impact. Let me take this back to Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav. Sir, all our panelists seem to be in agreement that Iran is at its weakest point ever. You know, it's also been described as a paper tiger. Many, including the Indian Army chief, have described the pager and walkie-talkie attacks that Israel carried out on Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon as a masterstroke. So it is very clear that all of the proxies that Iran has been relying on for all these years and decades are at their weakest. You know, they even stand decapitated today, and Iran simply does not have the capabilities to go after Israel in a manner that it would like to. Therefore, my question to you is, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, while some say that, you know, Israel would not want to go too far, may not attack Iran's nuclear installations, will probably go after its oil facilities and other military installations of the IRGC. But there is another school of thought on this, that, you know, Israel has tasted blood. They have broken the back of Hamas in Gaza. They've decapitated and significantly degraded Hezbollah in Lebanon. And therefore, this is as good a time as any for them to go after a country which they say is the fountainhead of terror in the entire region, which they also believe was the mastermind of the 7th October attack last year. Therefore, doesn't that give Israel a strong enough incentive to go all out in its war against Iran, knowing that Iran does not have the capability to strike back?
You see, as far as Israel is concerned, the biggest concern is their security. And this has been from the time 1949 that they got independence and they declared themselves as a nation. From that time, the biggest issue is their security. Now, the way they have gone about is a very smart way, militarily. If you look at it, they first tackled the Hamas. They did not permit Hezbollah to bother them too much. Now they've gone against Hezbollah, and they have hit the command and control infrastructure and also the top leadership. And at the same time, conveying a message to Iran that even they are not safe. Is the fact that Hanaya was killed in Tehran when the new president took oath. That was a message to Iranian top leadership also, that they are also on notice. That is one point. Second thing is the way Israel has gained superiority, military superiority over Hezbollah as well as Hamas, and also subdued Iran to the large extent. This is the turning point in their entire political life that they have, wherein they have an opportunity, wherein they can strike Iran politically, they can strike Iran economically, and they want to create a kind of a window wherein they come to the negotiating table and listen to Israel on their terms, and so that the Israel can survive with much better security. While I do agree that it is going to be a very difficult task, but it will take little time. And now that in US is a major player in this entire game plan, with Russia and China not throwing the chip into this regional affair. Once the new government comes in the US, probably that is the time the likelihood of some kind of a ceasefire, some kind of an agreement. And this time Israel, their intentions to go in for a long-term kind of agreement so that the security issue is taken care of. And once that is done, then the next step probably jointly the international body will take on for Palestinian issues. to declare them as a sovereign and independent state altogether with all mandatory sovereign powers with them. So this is how I can look at it. This war, this missile attacks and all, political gesturing, it will continue probably till first half of next year. And probably thereafter it will peter down and they will come to reconcile and come to some kind of a agreement.
Okay. Interesting. Of course, one doesn't know what Israel is going to do next. But, you know, the statement issued by former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett is quite instructive. He says Hamas and Hezbollah are temporarily paralyzed. So it's like a boxer out in the ring without arms for the next few minutes. He's referring to these two militias as being the two arms of Iran. He says now is the time that we can attack because Iran is fully vulnerable. It's time to neutralize the whole axis of evil. We started with Hamas, then Hezbollah. It's perhaps time for Iran. Now, is that the thinking in the Netanyahu government as well? Time will tell. But on that note, I'd like to thank all our guests for joining me on Global Lens tonight. Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav, Ambassador Ashok Sajanar, Dr. Zakir Hussain. Thank you so much to all of you for joining me on the show. And in other news, well, the US is discussing strikes on Iran's oil facilities as retaliation for Tehran's missile attack on Israel. That's what President Joe Biden said on Thursday while Israel's military hit Beirut with new airstrikes in its battle against the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah.
The US is discussing strikes on Iran's oil facilities as retaliation for Tehran's missile attack on Israel. That's according to President Joe Biden on Thursday. Israel is weighing its options after Iran launched its largest ever assault on Tuesday. Biden was asked whether he would support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities.
We're discussing that. I think that would be a little, anyway.
His comments contributed to a surge in global oil prices due to the rising Middle East tensions. The president also emphasized that no immediate action was planned, but reassured that Israel would respond to Iran's aggression. A US official said Washington does not believe Israel has decided yet how to respond to Iran. However, on Wednesday, Biden said he would not support any Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Meanwhile, Israel continued to target Hezbollah in Lebanon, launching new airstrikes on Beirut. Israel appeared to be targeting Hezbollah strongholds with reports of heavy bombardment in the Dahieh area. Residents say Israel ordered people to leave their homes in parts of the district. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed Iran will pay for Tuesday's missile attack, and Washington said it would work with its longtime ally to ensure Iran faced severe consequences. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, speaking in Doha, said on Thursday that Tehran would be ready to respond. Israel says its operations in Lebanon aim to help tens of thousands of its citizens to return home after areas near its northern border were forced to evacuate by Hezbollah attacks during the Gaza war. Meanwhile, over 1.2 million Lebanese have been displaced, with nearly 2,000 casualties reported since the escalation of Israeli attacks in the past year, primarily in the last 2 weeks.
And as the conflict in Lebanon escalates, Palestinians fear that the crisis in that country is diverting the world's attention from Gaza, where Israeli strikes killed dozens more people this week and diminishing already dim prospects for a truce as the war drags on for close to a year now.
As the world turns its attention to the conflict raging between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon, Palestinians in Gaza are slipping out of focus. Also diminishing are the already dim prospects for a ceasefire, almost a year into a war that continues to shatter the enclave and the lives of those in it. On Thursday, local medics reported at least 99 Palestinian deaths in the past 24 hours. That includes an Israeli strike on a school compound sheltering displaced Palestinian families in central Gaza on Wednesday. Among the wounded were several children, including this baby. The Israeli military said the strike was aimed at a Hamas command center embedded in the compound that used to be a school. Both Israel and Hamas say the Lebanon conflict could help end the Gaza war. Sami Abu Zuri, a senior Hamas official, said it could lead to pressure on Israel to strike a ceasefire deal, which would see the release of Israeli hostages held in Gaza and Palestinians jailed by Israel. But others are doubtful. Nomi Bar Yaakov, an expert on Middle East diplomacy, told Reuters Israel is now focused on trying to dismantle Hezbollah's military arsenal. That means it's had to put the ceasefire in Gaza on the back burner. U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said on Wednesday that the United States is still focused on securing a ceasefire and blamed the Palestinian group for stalling the talks.
And Hamas has refused to engage.
In August, Hamas officials and Western diplomats said new Israeli demands to keep troops in Gaza were holding up negotiations. An official briefed on the Gaza ceasefire talks told Reuters nothing would happen until after the U.S. presidential election on November the 5th. That's because no one can, quote, effectively pressure Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom the official called the key impediment to a Gaza ceasefire deal. The official, who requested their name and nationality be withheld, also said Hezbollah wanted the ceasefire proposal floated during last week's UN General Assembly to be linked to a ceasefire deal in Gaza. But Israel rejected this and the plan was dropped. Top Israeli officials publicly dismissed the idea of a quick ceasefire with Hezbollah. Meanwhile, at a funeral in Khan Yunis on Wednesday for some of the dozens of Gazans killed in an overnight strike, this woman called the death of her baby niece the biggest message to the world. A child sleeping in the arms of her mother, she said. What can I say? The whole world is asleep. Nobody cares about us or is even looking at our faces.
Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has made a sensational claim that a bugging device was found in his personal bathroom after it was used by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In his book, Unleashed, Boris Johnson writes that after Netanyahu visited his department in 2017, his security team found listening devices in the bathroom after the Israeli Prime Minister had used it. Johnson writes in the book, and I quote, "Thither Bibi repaired for a while, and it may or may not be a coincidence, but I am told that later when they were doing a regular sweep for bugs, they found listening devices in the Thunder box." Netanyahu, who was then on his first ever visit to the London office, asked to use the bathroom that Johnson, who was then the Foreign Secretary, describes as similar to the gents in a posh London club, which exists within a secret annex. Notably, Israel has been accused of snooping on friendly nations even in the past. In 2019, the US government said Israel was most likely behind the placement of cell phone surveillance devices that were found near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington, according to a Political report. However, Netanyahu denied the report, and the then US President Donald Trump also called it hard to believe. The United Kingdom has also been accused of spying on Israel's government and missions abroad based on leaked US intelligence obtained in 2016 by French newspaper Le Monde. All right, now on to India's foreign policy, and this is a significant development. In a significant diplomatic move, India announced today that External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will travel to Pakistan to attend a conclave of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, in the middle of October. The announcement was made by External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal. The last Indian External Affairs Minister to visit Pakistan was Sushma Swaraj. She had travelled to Islamabad in December 2015 to attend a conference on Afghanistan. Pakistan is hosting the SCO Council of Heads of Government meeting on the 15th and 16th of October. The MEA today said the External Affairs Minister will lead our delegation to Pakistan to participate in the SCO summit, which will be held in Islamabad on the 15th and 16th of October. The spokesperson clarified that the External Affairs Minister is travelling to Pakistan only to attend the SCO summit. In August, Pakistan had invited Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the SCO summit. Jaishankar's visit to Pakistan assumes significance as it is seen as a major decision on New Delhi's part. The decision to send the senior minister is seen as a display of India's commitment to the SCO, which has been playing a key role in boosting regional security cooperation. The ties between India and Pakistan came under severe strain after India's warplanes pounded a Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist training camp in Balakot inside Pakistani territory in February 2019 in response to the Pulwama terror attack. The relations further deteriorated after India on the 5th of August 2019 announced the withdrawal of special powers of Jammu and Kashmir with the abrogation of Article 370 and the bifurcation of the state into two union territories. India has maintained that it desires normal neighbourly ties with Pakistan while insisting that the onus is on Islamabad to create an environment free of terror and hostility for such engagement to be possible. The SCO Council of Heads of Government Conclave is the second highest platform in the grouping. The SCO Heads of State Summit is the topmost forum in the grouping that is generally attended by the Indian Prime Minister. The SCO, comprising India, China, Russia, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, is an influential economic and security bloc that has emerged as one of the largest trans-regional international organizations. India was the chair of the SCO last year. It hosted the SCO summit in the virtual format in the month of July last year. India's association with the SCO began in 2005 as an observer country. It became a full member of SCO at the Astana summit in 2017. India has shown a keen interest in deepening its security-related cooperation with the organization and its regional anti-terrorism structure, which specifically deals with issues relating to security and defense. The SCO was founded at a summit in Shanghai back in 2001. Pakistan became its permanent member along with India in the year 2017.
On your question on our participation in the SCO summit, yes, the External Affairs Minister will lead our delegation to Pakistan to participate in the SCO summit, which will be held in Islamabad on 15th and 16th, I understand, of October.
Alexander Soros, the son of billionaire philanthropist George Soros, met with Mohammed Yunus, the chief advisor to Bangladesh's interim government. Soros praised Yunus, calling him an old friend of his father, and lauded his leadership in guiding Bangladesh towards a future based on equity and fairness. This comes after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina that followed massive student-led protests and violence, especially targeting minorities in Bangladesh. Yunus was sworn in as the interim leader in August. He recently addressed the United Nations, hailing the youth-driven movement that led to Sheikh Hasina's removal while facing protests outside the United Nations headquarters. And that's all the time we have on this Friday edition of Global Lens. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend ahead. Do join us again on Monday.
I'm Payal Nath, the CEO and director of Kadam Heart. We're working with people, we're working with emotions, we're working with hands, we're working with nature.
We are very clear, we want to commit to livelihoods, we want to commit to the planet, we want to impact 1 million artisans, which is 1 million families minimum.
Be the change that you want to see.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
How do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface, but not the living people?
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
In the heart of New York, an Indian spectacle unfolds. Step into the world of the elite saga, featuring influential Indians who've rocked the globe. From culinary geniuses,
this has been nothing less than a dream,
to the wisdom of sages.
and which is why success can never be spelt without you.
Discover the stories behind the stars. Experience the magic behind the scenes. At the first Indian event at the Statue of Liberty. Watch the Elite Saga streaming only on News9 Plus. Download now.
Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Here are the top headlines today. The Supreme Court has set up an SIT monitored by the CBI director to probe the allegations of adulterated ghee being used in laddus distributed at Andhra Pradesh's Tirumala Venkateshwara temple. The team will include 2 police officers and a member of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. The Indian Air Force is looking at producing its entire inventory in India by 2047, Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh said on the 4th of October. He stressed the significance of developing indigenous weapon systems to address future security challenges. West Bengal's junior doctors are likely to call off their total cease work agitation on Friday and resume normal duties. However, they will continue with demonstrations seeking justice for their murdered colleague at RG Kar Hospital and better safety measures. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has written to Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar over CPWD, CISF and Tata Projects officers entering his room in Parliament without permission. Kharge urged Dhankar to ensure incidents that undermine the dignity of opposition leaders are not repeated. Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal has alleged that India was forced to join the China-headed Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership grouping by the then UPA government. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Tehran's recent missile attack on Tel Aviv was legal and legitimate and was the minimum punishment for Israel's crimes. Khamenei's public sermon, the first in almost 5 years, came 3 days before the 1-year anniversary of the Israel-Hamas war. Team India, led by Harmanpreet Kaur, will look for a winning start to their ICC Women's T20 World Cup campaign against New Zealand on the 4th of October. India headed into the World Cup in UAE without playing any international fixtures since the Asia Cup in July. Israel carried out a series of massive airstrikes overnight in the southern suburbs of Beirut. The new wave of strikes came after Israel warned people to evacuate neighborhoods in southern Lebanon that are outside the UN-declared buffer zone. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has claimed that a listening device was discovered in his bathroom after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used the facility during their 2017 meeting. Johnson's new book, Unleashed, claims the incident took place in the British Foreign Office when Johnson was UK's Foreign Secretary. Israeli strikes in Beirut overnight targeted Hashem Safieddine, the successor to late Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. It's unclear if Safieddine was killed in the strikes, but last Friday, on the 27th of September, Israel had assassinated the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in an unprecedented airstrike that used 80 tons of explosives. Not just the top leader, but 7 high-ranking commanders and officials of Hezbollah were killed too. In fact, Lebanon has been witnessing relentless Israeli airstrikes since the 16th of September. As Israel's bombing and cross-border ground incursions into Lebanon continue, the myth of Hezbollah, once the world's largest non-state actor, lies shattered. Severe blows to Hezbollah, in which it has lost key members, its entire leadership who've been part of this group since its establishment in the 80s, have fractured the group. It's plunged the group into unprecedented chaos. So is this the end of Hezbollah, Iran's proxy actor in West Asia? Joining me to discuss this are Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal, former Indian diplomat, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former DG Infantry, Indian Army, Dr. Premanand Mishra, Middle Eastern expert and former faculty of the Nelson Mandela Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution at the Jamia Millia Islamia University, and reporting for us from the ground from Lebanon, on ground zero, is my colleague Sumit Chaudhary of TV9 Bharatvarsh. In the studio, I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana. General Kulkarni, I want to start by asking you this. You know, we've seen unprecedented Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon, especially targeting Hezbollah. And there's this new phrase that we are being told, which is HVT, high value targeting. Given the state of Hezbollah's leadership, they've been literally decapitated. The successor to Hassan Nasrallah has been targeted as well. We are not sure if he's dead or alive. But given this volume of Israeli firepower that's been brought on Hezbollah, is it safe to assume Hezbollah is no longer the threat that it once was just 2 weeks ago?
Sandeep, I would say that it is not destroyed, but yes, it has been curtailed to a sizable amount. The leadership has almost dissipated, though of course the top leadership.
Yes.
You know, in this kind of I would say an organization which is a terrorist organization, has also political leanings and political hold over Lebanon, has to a large extent these fighters of theirs. So you have a Lebanese army,
yes,
and you have almost 50,000 to maybe a lakh plus fighters.
Yeah.
You have those rockets to yourself, and then you have those drones, you have tanks, you have artillery,
Yes.
all of it. And so does the Lebanese army, which is in fact much less in I would say in the equipment and armament than
Yes.
what Hezbollah is.
Than
In
Hezbollah.
that context, in that context, I think Hezbollah seems to have lost its sheen. It
Yes.
has certainly feeling the vacuum felt in the leadership, because all this requires coordination.
Yes.
The communication is not there. The coordination by the leaders who are in the chair for
Right.
last 30, 32 years, motivating them, prodding them,
Yes.
sort of making them feel fight against the Israelis. All that has gone, because after all, war is all about man and the
Right.
leadership,
Yes.
motivation, self-discipline. All of it seems to have just disappeared.
All of it has
Iran,
disappeared, General Kulkarni, and I'm going to take that point to Sumit Chaudhary, my colleague who's on ground zero in Lebanon at this moment. Sumit, tell us what the situation is like now. 200 airstrikes on Hezbollah in the last couple of hours by the Israeli Air Force. I see you there.